Is USC's defensive line getting ready to pop? Because it's looking like it could be pretty dominant in 2025.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, wherever you are going to download this podcast. And if you're definitely watching on YouTube, show's always free, and I always appreciate your support. From big upsets to game-winning drives, NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers, you can bet $5 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Zach Hansen's been kind of stealing the headlines recently. Got a couple of offensive line additions. My everydayers, you should be familiar with the names by now. You got DJ Wingfield, the transfer from Purdue. And then most recently, General Jayonre Reed. I apologize for running that name together there. Yeah, before those two guys came on board, though, the offensive line, it was Coach Henny and it was Coach Nua. It was Antonlynn. It was the defensive side of the ball that was getting bigger and beefier and better. They added, as you know, 700 pounds of defensive linemen just between two guys. Yeah, it's a lot. So you got Jamal Jarrett, the transfer from the University of Georgia, and Keyshawn Silver, the other defensive tackle from SEC Kentucky. So now those guys come aboard, they bolster the room, the defensive line, and it's starting to look like, you know what? They might have all the pieces to be successful, be impactful, make a difference. So those are the guys they brought in through the transfer portal, just those two so far. And then don't forget about your recruiting class. You know, the jewel of the class. When you're talking about jewel, you're talking about Thanos, the guy who just collects jewels so he can snap of fingers and make everything go away. Make all of USC's troubles go away, just like that. So you got Jakeem Stewart coming in, USC's future. Considered a can't-miss prospect. Come in, ready to play. So there's a ton of excitement already building. You've got those guys. Don't forget you got the guys returning. And then you got your recruiting class that features, you know, guys like Floyd Boucard, another interior defensive lineman. Big. He looks like a man. And you got a couple of defensive ends. Maybe somebody could slide inside like Cash Jacobson, but Gus the Bus Cordova, Cash Jacobson, Floyd Boucard, those guys are joining Jakeem Stewart as far as your high school recruits. So let's break down the defensive line room. I got a count of 18 players so far. You've got Anthony Lucas, Garrett Pomerantz, who's returning, Braylon Shelby, he'll be going into his junior campaign. You've got sophomore Cameron Fountain, redshirt freshman in 2025 will be Lorenzo Cowan. That's an intriguing prospect. I mentioned Jakeem Stewart. I mentioned Gus Cordova. And then you got, 11 guys that can play inside, or at least that's where they're being slotted right now. Redshirt senior returner, Kobe Pepe. You've got the aforementioned Keyshawn Silver, Jamal Jarrett. You got Cash Amos, Devon Tompkins. Jade Abasiri, Carlon Jones. You got Ratumana Bulabalavu, Floyd Boucard, Cash Jacobson that I mentioned. And you have another walk-on, Brendan Cho. All of a sudden, there's depth to go along with the talent. Look, if Anthony Lucas is healthy, he's going to be the starter on one side. And you got Cameron Fountain, Braylon Shelby. Those two are going to be, I think, will battle it out for the other side of the defensive line. So what's going to be your too deep? I mean, obviously, you're way too early, too deep. But if we were to start, where would you go? I'm going to start with Anthony Lucas and Jakeem Stewart as the too deep on one side. And then I've got Cameron Fountain, Braylon Shelby They're going to fight it out. They're 1A, 1B on the other side of the line. In the middle, here's where it gets really difficult. And this is a good difficult. You want your coaches, your coaching staff to say, you know what? I got a lot of players. Who do I play? And they're all good. So again, you got Kobe Pepe, Devin Tompkins, Jide Abaseri. They know the system. And then you got, obviously, the transfers are going to be inside track with Keyshawn Silver, Jaw Jarrett. You're not bringing them in just to kind of be, role players. These guys are expected to come in and make an immediate impact. Don't forget, you got Carlon Jones, who never got a chance to play in 2024. Not even in the bowl game. But when you saw him walking around, practicing, man, cannot wait to see that guy lace him up. So let's hope he's ready for spring camp. And I say let's hope he's ready because he wasn't available to play in the bowl game. I really thought that would be everybody's first glimpse of Carlon on the field. So we'll see what happens. I anticipate he'll be ready by spring camp. The most important thing, I think, for everybody to remember, the numbers. Again, USC now has the ability to absorb an injury. Heaven forbid that happens, but it's a long season. So as the season goes along, if somebody does go down and you need, to replace them, you've now got a pretty deep group of players to choose from. And who knows? We've got another transfer portal window coming up later in the spring. But look, unless there's somebody in there that you can say, all right, that guy's going to come over and he's going to give me 10 sacks. I don't know if USC needs to gorge themselves, overfill the room, so to speak, kind of like the running back room right now. Talked about that on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. There might be too many running backs. So again, if both of these groups, the defensive ends and the defensive tackles, if they're both fully healthy and can stay that way for the majority of the season, obviously there's a lot to like up front going into next year. Thing is, you hate to live on potential because that's what USC is right now. There's a lot of potential. So until we see the guys in the game, even in the spring game, which you can pick up some key things. Say, all right, I saw something there. They got something that they can work with. That's where we're at right now. A lot of potential. A lot of potential. Look, so the USC's defensive coaching staff, their job now is develop these guys. Take all that potential and let's figure out a way to make it productive once the season rolls around. And it'll be here sooner than you know it. Trust me, time goes by quickly. The older you get, it really flies by. All right. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering and worrying about your taxes? Well, that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. They don't have to be. People make it that way. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions, whether you've got one form or 20. TurboTax experts gives your taxes their undivided attention while you get real-time updates so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you'll get the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the professionals. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who is going to be ready to take your taxes off your plate. That way you can focus on the rest of your day. Only available with TurboTax full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. So is the offensive line going to be ready when USC actually hits the road and they take on Purdue? That's the third game of the season. Why am I asking you this question? I'll tell you why. stepping on the field with a team that's considered your equal, or at least you're the same size as you are, you know, theoretically speaking, I think that's always the best way to make a judgment about future success. In other words, I don't think USC is going to gain anything from opening their season against Missouri State, followed up by Georgia Southern. Last year, USC and LSU, they didn't need a warm-up game. They just said, all right, let's meet in Vegas. Let's get into a fist fight. I like the way that turned out. Jill, it gave everybody a lot of confidence going into the season. I mean, I think the team thought, yeah, you know what? We're good. In fact, we're probably good enough to compete for a championship. Well, they were close. One play here, one play there. Yeah, we'll never know. Sarcasm aside, though, I'm not sure that, again, USC beating Missouri State and Georgia Southern at home, I don't think that's going to offer the same confidence to USC's offensive line, as they get ready for their conference schedule. USC's first game of any type, that should give them any type of, resistance is going to be that third game of the season when USC goes to Purdue. Yes, Purdue. Josh Henson will be the offensive coordinator. And then you've got Barry Odom, who is their new head coach. If the game was being played tomorrow, I'm going to say this is your starting offensive line. And again, it could be slightly different, but I think this is what USC is going to roll out. You're going to have, obviously, Elijah Page at left tackle. You're going to have DJ Wingfield starting at left guard, assuming that's the case. General Reed, Gianre at center. Alani Noah, he is, forget the pencil, it's carved in stone. He is your starting right guard. And then your starting right tackle is probably going to be redshirt sophomore Tobias Raymond. Will those guys be ready after playing 2 cupcakes at home? Will they be ready to go on the road and handle the atmosphere in West Lafayette, Indiana? Purdue's a weird place. I've always, for whatever reason, when highly ranked teams go in there, even against not very good Purdue teams, those highly ranked teams leave with a loss. I've seen it happen. Ask Ohio State. I've watched it happen to them. During the spring, I do anticipate everyone that's in the offensive line room. I think we could probably tell Elijah Page, don't worry about cross-training. You got left tackle. Alani Noah, same thing for you. You got right guard. Everybody else, they're going to be finding out what position is best suited for them. So if we know Justin Tuanu can play left tackle, can he play left guard? We'll find out. So how quickly can these guys, come together during the season? And then how quickly can they come together during the off season? You got spring camp, you're going to have winter workouts, spring camp, and then you got the summer workouts before you roll into fall camp. And you want them to be able to, build that chemistry and carry that into the season. So that's the first question that they got to answer. I think the more important question is, will USC's offensive line be ready for big conference, Big Ten level competition? Remember, you're playing back-to-back SEC-type body bag games. Those types of games where you're paying programs to come in, take the paycheck, go home with a loss. 2025 was supposed to be the year that USC opened up against Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss without Jackson Dart. Go ahead. Convince me that USC wanted out of this game. Anyways, the game's not being played anymore. Paying programs to go home with a loss so USC can inflate their record. I get it. I understand that school of thought. You can't beat them, join them. Do what the SEC does. How's that working out for them this year, by the way? But on the other side of the coin, it doesn't help your overall strength of schedule. And it could also offer a false sense of confidence. Being able to dominate schools, especially a school that's playing Division I ball in its first year, Missouri State, and then following that up with, Clay Helton's squad, it's not the same as playing LSU. It's just not. Missouri State is going to become the 12th member of Conference USA this year. Last year, they were an FBS team. They played in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. I mean, when these teams lose to USC, like in Missouri State's case, the paycheck they're taking home with them, it's going to pay for the rest of their athletic department for the rest of the calendar year. Make no mistake about it. But what does USC get out of it? An easy win? I guess the one major benefit is everyone is going to play, right? They better. And they should probably be playing in the game a lot sooner, a lot earlier than they got in the game against Utah State last year. I don't care if you're trying to salvage a shutout. Everybody plays in both of these games. I'll take it a step further. Anything less than a shutout, I think, should be considered a step backwards, especially that game against Missouri State. Are you saying, Mark, you're kind of showing a lack of respect for the Missouri State Bears? Yeah, I am. I'll accept 63-3. How's that? If for some reason they're able to get in position and kick a field goal, USC better have 60 more points than Missouri State. And then you have Clay Helton returning. Look, I don't hate the guy like some of you out there. I mean, he didn't hire himself. He didn't give himself a pay raise. He was doing the best he can. He just wasn't able to get the job done. I don't hate the guy. But there is no way Clay Helton's squad should be able to compete with USC. None. So after that awkward pregame handshake between the former head coach of USC and the current head coach of USC, the guy who replaced Clay Helton, USC needs to play a game that prepares them to play on the road. And I don't know how you do that against a squad that you should be considered the heavy favorite. Your first game on the road, you're going up against a team with a defensive head coach, Barry Odom. He's a guy who knows how to turn teams around. He's done it wherever he's gone. He's a really good coach. He'll have Purdue ready. Make no mistake about that. And then defensively for USC, is Josh Henson he's going to say, hey, Coach Riley, watch these play calling skills. Check this out. So again, if you've been an everyday viewer, listener of Locked On USC, and if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't become a subscriber yet, you're taking too long. Click that red subscribe button. I need you to smash that thumbs up. Everybody. Both of those are going to continue to help the show grow. And I don't want you to miss an episode, so click that bell notification button. Yeah, both of these games, I'm not a fan of. I like challenging schedules. I'm not a fan of the path of least resistance. And I think going forward, the playoff committee is going to start looking at, hey, let's look at who USC and who they played, who do they beat, and who did they lose to? I think that has to become more of a priority. Because right now, there's that, I think people are caught in the middle with, oh, you know what, they got 10 wins, they play in this conference, they're a playoff team. When you start looking at where they played, who they played, and then you combine that with their out-of-conference schedule, sometimes that's not always the case. I don't want USC to be in that quagmire. They've dealt with that too many times throughout their history because they played in the Pac-8, Pac-10, the Pac-12 conference. Wasn't as strong as the SEC or the Big Ten conference or the Big 12 at the time, whatever. It always felt like the Pac-12 they had to prove themselves a little bit more. And that's why USC said, all right, fine. We'll own our conference and we'll just go kick everybody's butt and out of conference play. Don't believe me? Go check their history. Go look at what happened when they played Auburn, Arkansas, Nebraska, Ohio State, on the road at Virginia Tech. These were all home and home series, except for the Vatech game. But what you got out of that, win or lose, and USC won the games, but win or lose, you got a really good idea. All right, I know what this USC is all about. I don't know if you get that playing against Missouri State and Georgia Southern. And going into 2025, USC's offensive line is a question mark. It was less of a question mark when Emmanuel Prion was coming back. He's pulling a Bear Alexander on USC. So now you have Elijah Page, Alani Noah. You have a pretty good idea what you're going to get from Tobias Raymond at right tackle. But you got to get that left guard and that center position figured out. Are you going to run with the guys who have been in the system? Guys like Micah Benuelos, Justin Talanu? Or are you just going to plug and play those transfer guys? DJ Wingfield and General Jeonre Reed. All right, we got one more segment to go. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and a whole lot more than that. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. You'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's Friday. It's the third segment of the show. It's time for me to rant and get this off my chest. After watching Penn State and Notre Dame play against each other in the semifinals, after watching them play in the first round of the playoffs, in the quarterfinals, as a USC football fan, how frustrated are you with USC 2024? Yeah, there's a dramatic pause in there so you all can say, damn frustrated. I heard it from here. I heard you all say it. Damn frustrating. Look, I get it. I know both games that USC lost to Penn State and Notre Dame, both of them were played in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. But USC was more than good enough to beat both of those teams. Think about it. USC led 20-6 at halftime against Penn State. They had a late fourth quarter lead. They lost 33-30 in overtime. Then against Notre Dame, last game of the year. Yeah, USC was driving to tie the score at 35 apiece. And then we all know what happened after that. You had a couple of back-to-back pick sixes. I think what bugs me the most, knowing that Notre Dame is now in the national championship game, was watching defensive lineman Junior Tui Halamalaka, linebacker Kingston Viliamuasa, both of those guys playing major minutes at defensive end and linebacker, respectively. Tui Halamalaka was part of the 2022 class, right? Yeah. Kingston Viliamuasa, part of the 2024 cycle. Those guys were playing major minutes in a major game, making big-time contributions. Both of those players from Southern California, and they're playing in South Bend. Yeah, that should bug you, because it bugs the heck out of me. I don't know. For whatever reason, USC, Clay Helton staff, they didn't show a whole lot of interest in Junior. who, by the way, played at Bishop Alemany. Look, you would have to recruit him really hard, show him a lot of love, because his head coach at the time was Rick Clausen, quarterback he played at Tennessee. And if you say, well, I know that last name Clausen, you should. His younger brother, Jimmy Four Fingers, arrived in South Bend with rings that he never played for or won. You have those guys definitely chirping in Junior's ear. Hey, you don't want to go to USC. Go to Notre Dame. Go to Notre Dame. Halamalaka ended up in South Bend. We know Bili Amuasa picked Notre Dame over USC in the 2024 recruiting cycle. And then just recently, in this 2025 class, USC thought they had Madden Faremo locked in. He's joining an Irish squad next season that's playing for the national championship this year. Yeah. That's got to bug you. I mean, raise your hand if you thought Marcus Freeman would be the hottest coach in America over Lincoln Riley when he took over at USC. Think about that. And how is it even possible? Somebody answer me this question. For Penn State's quarterback, Drew Allar, and their wide receivers not to be able to hook up for one reception during the game. Notre Dame kicked the winning field goal. They beat Penn State 20-17. And in that game, I kid you not, Penn State wide receivers did not have one reception. Everything was out of the backfield to Nick Singleton or Katron Means. And the Mackey Award winner, the guy who had 17 of his 100 catches of the season come against USC, Tyler Warren, they were able to keep him in check. I think you understand why Kyron Hudson ran to Happy Valley to be Penn State's #1 wide receiver. They could have used him against Notre Dame. Look, the fact that I have to continuously have to listen to that Notre Dame fight song, it may be iconic. It may be part of college football, but I hate that fight song. I hate it. And now I got to hear that xylophone over and over and over again. I mean, ESPN is thinking, well, at least it's not going to be Ohio State versus Penn State. There's a chance it could be Texas versus Notre Dame. But there's a chance this is going to be Ohio State versus Notre Dame. And I'm not happy about this. Tired of it. I'm tired of USC coming in second place to Notre Dame. And if the Fighting Irish go on to win the college football playoff, win a national championship, which would be their first one since 1988. You think they're winning recruiting battles against USC now? Yeah, probably get easier for USC in the future, right? Anyways, that's my rant. I'm done. One last thing before we get out of here. I want to say if there's anything I can do for my everyday listeners who are dealing with the fire in Southern California, or if there's anybody out there who's listening, if there's something you think you can do to help the people in Southern California who are dealing with the fires, let's make their life a little bit easier. Let's give them something that they can kind of lean into, take their mind off of things. And that's what I want to make the show all about. So if I can give the USC listeners who are dealing with a lot of real life stuff right now, if I can give them 30 minutes of escape, I'm here for you. All right, I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC next week. I might have an instant reaction show. USC plays Illinois in basketball. We'll see how that goes. But until the next episode of Locked on USC, everyone, you know what to do.